Coming in hot, I'm your host and captain of the Reason to Reason podcast, Sal Galati. We're going to do something a little bit different. You're just going to get a taste, a dose of reason. Thanks for joining me for one of these first dose of reasons. The reason why I'm doing it is, getting comments. People like the show. Common comment, though, is like, they're too long. I don't have the time to listen. What I'm going to do here is try to deliver something pretty quickly for you to chew on. Think about, maybe we'll develop it more in other episodes, maybe we won't. The thing I wanted to talk about today, I actually went to go vote in our local election, and I'm getting flyers in the mail. So I wanted to make a couple brief comments, just my personal observations of some of these individuals. So as I mentioned before in another episode, I think Signs Everywhere Sign. I documented that story where I spoke to the library board and made some comments about some of the books that were in the library. And we talked about it in Mafia and Politics too. I'm not a book banner. That's what they wanted to label it. I was simply making the observation that some of these books had pornographic images. They probably shouldn't be in the kids section. And the head of the library board at the time, her name was Lauren Rapasand. She was the one who, when I asked, we have the all are welcome here, and we talked about that sign, like our rapists welcome, our pedophiles welcome, surely not everyone's welcome. And I asked her because she had been spending time maligning me online, twisting what I was saying, which is always the thing, right? When someone's kind of on something, they don't attack the content of what he says, they attack him, they malign him. It happens, you can see it in many figures. This is just a little local thing. So I asked her in the meeting, because we weren't seeing eye to eye on anything, and it was very emotional on one end of it, not mine. And I asked her, hey, can we get on the same page? Are pedophiles not welcome here? And she couldn't answer that question. I told you that story. Coincidentally, I went to vote, and she's there because she's running for 6th Ward Alderman. Her name's Lauren Rapasand. So I saw her, and I said, hey, you remember me? I don't know. She looked at me, and I said, hey, I'm Sal. We talked about the library thing. Yeah, I said, I'm still very confused and concerned that you can't understand that pedophiles shouldn't be in the library with children. And then she goes, well, what I meant to say was, I represented the board there and I couldn't answer for all of them. And I said, really? So you're not certain if all the board members are okay with the statement of pedophiles not being welcome in the library? Well, that's not what I meant. I said, well, how about you? Can you speak for yourself? And she says, well, where I stand on that. I said, no, I'd like to hear it. And she acknowledged that they wouldn't be welcome there. And I just said, you got a lot of things to figure out, whatever. I went in and vote. I'm glad there's some reason happened, and she was able to verbalize that's not acceptable at the library. The other comment I want to make is on the guy running for re-election for mayor. His name's Marty Maloney. Nice enough guy, he looks nice in the photos and everything. My personal experience with him, though, is when I went to speak at the library board, which initiated the meeting that I just referenced, that got completely out of control. I sent out an email that I was going to speak, and all these people showed up because who knows what they were saying about it online. I stand by what I said. It's recorded. It's on the archives at the. I would imagine it's on the website. They document that stuff. But anyway, Marty showed up for that meeting, and he sat in the front row. I actually said hi to him before my public comment. Now, I would imagine nobody comes to library board meetings, but this one was attended because they made it a circus for no reason. So there's 30, 40 people there. Marty's there. I say hi to him. He's with his wife. I actually thank him because he came in to speak at my daughter's school and talk about what it's like to be a mayor, whatever. I said that was cool. She really liked that. Just cordial conversation. I get up, I speak, nothing flagrant, nothing inappropriate. And the rules of the board meeting that were established were no one was to talk about, and no personal attacks about anyone in the room, which I didn't make, of course. Well, the next guy gets up to speak comment. He's not talking anything about the actual topic. Actually, if you listen to what he said, talk about homophobic. He was saying, I wouldn't do that, but people could do what they want to do and all this stuff. Just a bizarre rant, insulting me the entire time by name, calling me this, calling me that. And there's Marty sitting in the front row, not saying a word. No one on the board said anything. I got up and spoke again and said, hey, I thought we weren't supposed to make personal attacks. I'm trying to talk about a topic and everyone's just, saying that I'm this and I'm that. Well, I learned something about Marty that day. It was weakness. He was the leader. He was the mayor. He had an opportunity at that moment to get up and say, no, we're not going to insult each other. We're going to talk about the concern of the citizen, hear him out, talk about it cordially. He didn't. He sat there. I, on the other hand, went and initiated a conversation with a young lady there that, and it's all well documented, to talk about it because there was miscommunication. When we actually talked, we actually had a beer afterwards. She understood what I was saying, and it wasn't about attacking any individual. It was about protecting the kids. That's what it always was about. And Marty instead chose to close the door on us when we were talking in the hallway rather than engaging and celebrating the fact that two people who disagreed cut through the garbage and actually saw eye to eye. So for that reason, I'm not terribly impressed with Marty. I'm not terribly impressed with Lauren. If you like that little dose of reason and you want to hear some more, there's some longer episodes in the library. Check them out. Send in your ideas, reasonstoreason@gmail.com. Share it, pass it along, keep talking. Peace.